So, your coworker just bought a house, and they won't stop talking about it. Pictures of the kitchen, the floor plan, the yard. They use words like equity and investment with so much confidence. And you smile, you congratulate them, but inside you feel that quiet, nagging question. Why haven't I done this? Am I falling behind? Let me be clear. That feeling is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're smart enough to question a story that everyone else just accepts. The story that says renting is throwing money away and buying a house is the only way to build real wealth. You're watching Focused Mindset. We don't do fairy tales here. We do math. And today, we're going to spend some time together doing a deep, detailed breakdown of the rent versus buy decision for 2026. We're not just skimming the surface. We're going to look at every hidden cost, every missed opportunity, and the real psychology behind the pressure to buy. By the end, you won't have a simple yes or no. You'll have a powerful framework to make the decision for yourself. A framework based on your numbers, not someone else's opinion. If you're ready to see the full picture most people ignore, you're in the right place. Let's start with the most common phrase. Renting is just throwing money away. On the surface, it seems obvious. You pay your landlord $2,000 and you get nothing to show for it at the end of the year. No asset. It feels like flushing cash down the drain. The idea is that mortgage payment is completely different. It's building your future. But this is a massive and very costly oversimplification. It only looks at one side of the equation. To understand why, we need to perform what I call a full cost breakdown of homeownership. Most people only see the mortgage payment, but owning a house is like owning a complex machine. The mortgage is just the cost to buy the machine. Then you have to pay to run it, maintain it, and insure it every single month. Let's use the numbers from a very common real-life scenario, a $400,000 house. This isn't a mansion. In many cities, this is a very average starter home. With today's average interest rate around 7% and a standard 30-year loan, your monthly mortgage payment for principal and interest is about $2,330. Now here is the first critical detail almost everyone misses. That $2,330 is not all going toward the house you own. It's mostly going to the bank. In the very first year of that mortgage, out of that $2,330, roughly $2,000 is pure interest. You are paying the bank $2,000 a month for the privilege of borrowing their money. That $2,000 is gone. It provides you with no equity. It builds no wealth for you. By the simple definition, that is thrown away money. So, right from the start of your classic mortgage payment, over 85% is a non-recoverable cost. But we are just getting started, because when you own, you don't just pay the bank, you pay the city. That's property tax. On a $400,000 house, the national average is between $4,000 and $6,000 a year. Let's take the middle, $5,000 a year. That's about $416 per month you are paying, forever. You never get this back. It's a fee for owning the land your house sits on. Then you have homeowner's insurance. The bank requires it. That's another $150 to $300 a month depending on where you live. Let's say $200. Next, maintenance. Things break. Roofs leak, furnaces die, paint peels. The rule of thumb is to save 1% of your house's value every year for repairs and upkeep. For a $400,000 house, that's $4,000 a year, or $333 per month. This is not optional. If you don't save it, you'll go into debt when the water heater explodes. And if you couldn't put down a full 20% payment, you pay private mortgage insurance. That's an extra fee to protect the bank because they see you as a risk. That can be another $200 to $300. Let's say $250. Now, let's do the real math, the true monthly cost of owning that $400,000 house. Mortgage, $2,330. Property tax, $416. Insurance, $200. Maintenance fund, $333. Private mortgage insurance, $250. Total real monthly cost, $3,529. This is the number you must use to compare to rent, not the $2,330 mortgage payment. Now, how much of that $3,529 is actually building your wealth? How much is going into the equity of the house you own? Just the principal part of that mortgage payment, the tiny sliver that isn't interest. In year one, that's about $330. Let's be crystal clear. You are spending $3,529 per month. Of that, $3,199, that's interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, private mortgage insurance. This money you will never see again. It is gone. Only $330 is being stored as home equity. You are converting less than 10% of your housing cost into forced, illiquid savings. The other 90% plus is pure cost. So, is renting throwing money away? Yes, it is a pure expense for shelter. But is owning different? Yes, but not in the way you think. Owning is also throwing over 90% of your money away. You are just throwing it to more people: the bank, the city, the insurance company, and the plumber. You get a small forced savings plan, but you pay a massive fee for it. The smarter question is, which option allows me to keep and control more of my money at the end of the day? This is the first major insight. And if this detailed breakdown is changing how you see this decision, then you're exactly who we make these videos for. Here at Focused Mindset, we dedicate ourselves to these deep dives. If you want more content that cuts through the noise, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us more than you know, and it makes sure you don't miss the next part of this breakdown where things get even more interesting. Now, let's tackle the second huge piece: opportunity cost. This is the most powerful force in finance, and most people never calculate it when they buy a house. Opportunity cost just means, what else could I have done with this money? When you tie up your money in one place, you give up all the other things it could have earned. Let's go back to our two people from earlier, but now let's give them names and follow them for 30 years. Sarah decides to buy. She buys that $400,000 house. Her total monthly cost, as we just calculated, is $3,529. Alex decides to rent. He finds a similar place to live for $2,200 a month. This is realistic. Rent is often cheaper than the true all-in cost of owning the same property. So, from day one, Alex has $1,329 more in his pocket every single month than Sarah does. That's the opportunity. That's the money he can use differently. Now, the classic objection is, but Alex will just spend that $1,329 on stupid stuff. Sarah is forced to save through her mortgage. Let's be generous. Let's assume Alex is as disciplined as Sarah. He sets up an automatic transfer. Every month, he takes that $1,329 difference and invests it into a simple, low-cost index fund that tracks the entire stock market. What does history say happens to money in the stock market? Over long periods, like 30 years, the average return is about 10% per year. To be extra conservative, let's use 8% for our math. What happens over 30 years? We're going to do the math here, so follow along. Alex invests $1,329 every month for 30 years at an 8% average return. At the end of 30 years, that investment account is worth roughly $2.1 million. Let that sink in. By consistently investing the difference, Alex builds a liquid investment portfolio worth over $2 million. Now, what about Sarah? What does she have after 30 years? She has a house. Assuming it appreciates at the historical average for housing, which is about 3 to 4% per year, her $400,000 house is now worth about $1.2 million. That seems amazing, but we cannot stop there. We must subtract what it cost her to get there. She paid over $480,000 in interest to the bank over 30 years, $150,000 in property taxes, that's $5,000 per year for 30 years, and $120,000 in maintenance, that's $4,000 per year for 30 years. So her total costs on top of the price of the house are $750,000. If she sells her house for $1.2 million, after paying a realtor 6% commission, she gets about $1.13 million. Subtract the $750,000 in costs, her actual net benefit from owning is closer to $380,000. Compare the two outcomes after 30 years. Alex, the renter, $2.1 million in liquid stocks and bonds, cash he can use for anything, anytime. Sarah, the buyer, a paid-off house worth $1.2 million, but after costs, a net gain of about $380,000 in home equity. The renter didn't just win, he won by a factor of 5. And he never had to mow a lawn, replace a roof, or worry about property taxes going up. This is the brutal, hidden math of opportunity cost. A mortgage doesn't just cost you the payment, it costs you every single dollar of potential growth that money could have had elsewhere. We're halfway through, and this is where the math gets truly revealing. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, if it's giving you clarity you haven't found anywhere else, do us a favor. Hit the like button right now. It tells YouTube this is the kind of in-depth content you want to see, and it helps others who need this message find their way here. So if the math can be so clear, why does the pressure to buy feel so overwhelming? Why do we feel like we're failing if we rent? This isn't just about money, it's about psychology. First, it's what everyone you trust has done. Your parents, your successful aunt, your older friends. They all bought. They give you advice based on their experience, but their experience happened in a different world. They might have bought a house when it cost 2 or 3 times their annual salary. Today, in many places, that same house costs 6 or 8 times a young person's salary. The game has changed, but the advice hasn't. Second, the entire system is designed to make buying feel normal and renting feel temporary. Think about it. Who benefits when you buy a house? The real estate agent makes a commission on the sale. The mortgage broker gets paid when you sign the loan. The bank makes decades of interest from you. The government collects property taxes forever. All of these people have a vested interest in convincing you that buying is always the right move. They're not evil, it's just their job, but it means you are rarely hearing the full, unbiased story. Third, our culture ties home ownership directly to adulthood, success, and stability. It's in every movie, every TV show. The stable person owns a house. The struggling person rents an apartment. We've been programmed to see a deed as a report card on our lives. This creates a powerful emotional trap. You're forced to choose between what feels financially risky, a huge mortgage, and what feels socially and personally risky, being seen as not a real adult. The way out of the trap is to realize this. True financial adulthood isn't about following a script. It's about writing your own, based on your numbers. It's about having the courage to rent and invest aggressively if that's what your spreadsheet says, even if it means your family doesn't quite understand. So with the math and psychology laid bare, when does buying actually become a rational choice? Now, I am not saying never buy a house. That would be just as dogmatic as saying always buy. What I am saying is buy for the right reasons and only when the math works for you. Buying can make sense when you can say yes to these conditions. You plan to stay put for a long time, the 5-year rule. Buying and selling a house is incredibly expensive. Realtor fees, closing costs, moving, it can eat up to 10% of the home's value. You need to stay in the house long enough for your equity to grow and cover those costs. A good rule is at least 5 to 7 years. If your job or life might change before then, renting is almost certainly smarter. Next, the total monthly cost is comfortable, not what the bank approved you for. Banks will approve you for a scary amount. I mean the true total cost. Mortgage, tax, insurance, maintenance should be no more than 25–30% of your take-home pay. If it's 40% or 50%, you will be house poor. You'll own a house but be one emergency away from disaster. Next, you have a solid emergency fund first. Before you even think about a down payment, you should have 6 to 12 months of living expenses saved in cash. A house is a machine that breaks at the worst possible time. You need a cushion outside of the house itself. Lastly, you are buying a home, not speculating on an investment. Buy because you want a stable place to live, paint the walls, and build a life. Do not buy because you think it will double in value in 3 years. That's gambling, not investing. If you cannot check these boxes, the most powerful wealth-building move you can make is to strategically rent. Rent the place that meets your needs for the lowest reasonable cost. Then be fanatical about investing the difference between that rent and what owning would have cost you. That is how you build real, liquid, flexible wealth in 2026. So here's your action plan, your homework from this video. Tonight, open a spreadsheet or take out a piece of paper. On one side, write renting. List your current rent or a realistic rent for where you want to live. Then commit to an investment number, the difference between that rent and the true cost of owning. On the other side, write buying. Find a house you're looking at online. List the real monthly mortgage payment, use an online calculator. Add property tax, look it up on the county website. Add insurance, make few calls for a quote. Add 1% of the price per year for maintenance. This is your true monthly number. Look at the two numbers. Which one is bigger? More importantly, which path leaves you with more money that you control, more safety, and more freedom? The answer is your answer, not mine, not your parents, not your coworkers. The goal is not to own a house. The goal is to own your future. Sometimes the best way to do that is to not own a house at all. If this deep dive helped you, share it with a friend who's wrestling with this same decision. And for more frameworks to take control of your money and your time, remember to subscribe to Focused Mindset. We're here to give you the tools, not the rules. And if you are interested in learning how to build a business step by step, watch this next video. Thanks for watching.